Before we conclude with Microsoft's session, I wanted to bring up Matthew Harris. One of the things that I hear a lot from educational institutions is you need to support your users. It's critically important. But as our colleagues and Kara and Rachel said from Loudoun County Schools, you're so pressed for both financial and technical resources. You need the right partner to give you that support. US Cloud has some fantastic credibility and technical knowledge for those people looking for support on the Microsoft platform. Again, Matthew, a new participant to Angelbeat, I wanted to ask him to briefly discuss their capabilities because I know his solution is so critically important in education. Matthew, all yours.
Yep. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to assume people can hear me and let somebody else say something if I'm muted. But, you know, I feel like a little bit, you know, with everybody, especially following that, it's like you have a house and you're getting you're shopping for a beautiful new, you know, appliances or you know, security system. I'm here to talk to you about, you know, the importance of tuck pointing your chimney. But let me explain to you why this is a little bit more exciting than just talking about, you know, kind of back end support. You know, what we're seeing, especially in education now, and I'll talk about timing a little bit more, is the costs of supporting Microsoft infrastructure has been going up rapidly. And I'm going to walk you guys through kind of the reasons behind that, what to expect, because we're seeing it really start to get pushed down into the educational sector. And this is the ability to go, even though it's a little bit boring until you have a problem, that it becomes a little bit more exciting. But it is the ability to pay for all of these other things, the innovation, the staff that you need. You know, there's so much going on and so much you need to respond to. You need to look for that low-hanging fruit where you can save significant money to fund other things without losing functionality or going into technical debt. So we'll start, you know, kind of with why we're talking about this. You know, Microsoft moved a few years ago. It kind of kicked off in 2017, but really kind of picked up speed last year. They went from a support model called Premier Support to Microsoft Unified. That new model is significantly different. It's the biggest change that Microsoft's really made in the last decade. It is an unlimited version, kind of an all-you-can-eat model for support, and it's also formula-based, meaning the pricing is determined almost exclusively by what software you purchased. There are a lot of companies, I talk to them every day, that are seeing 50, 100%, 400%. I even talked to a group that really honestly saw a 7-fold increase in their budget for support. And this is not besides the unlimited hours, which I'm not sure how you make your system break a little bit more often to get value out of it, but there really is an additional value inside of that. So, you know, you're paying for what you had before, but you're paying a lot more for it. The additional kicker, if you are getting pushed into that, is that it's not just a one and done. We're also seeing folks coming back in year 2 and year 3 from switching to Unified and seeing additional increases that are really significant. Just, you know, worked with a very large K through 12 school district out in California that we were able to, you know, come in, provide credible replacement service for their Microsoft environments and 365, et cetera, and save about 7 figures plus, which they were able to, you know, not do some planned layoffs that they were going to have to do inside of staffing, not have to shelf a couple of the pieces that they were looking at as really, really important. And, you know, this next chart is not for you to understand. This is, and I'm trying, and I know a lot of you probably don't have anything to do with support. So what I'm wanting to give you today is just a brief understanding of the issue at hand, so that when you do start hearing or feeling, you know, budgeting pressure coming down from the top because of either this issue or others, you could bring this up within your organization as something to look at and possibly go, again, save significant amount of money. So this is the formula, and this will be, you know, this is in my presentation. You'll be able to look at it and dig into it if you're actually interested. But this is the formula that Microsoft is now using to dictate the pricing for Unified. Again, it is specifically tied to what you're doing on your EA or on your licensing sales. So there's not a whole lot of room to negotiate in that, and they're sticking pretty much to it. You know, the other piece, they have been rolling this out in phases, and it's been both geographically but also kind of sector oriented in how they've gone after it. And education has been kind of toward the end of that adoption curve. We are seeing more and more, both higher education, secondary education, and even lower, coming to us. It is now getting pushed out much more aggressively. Given what's going on with the pandemic and all of the added expense that education is being forced to bear, this is a significant burden to a lot of the folks that we talk to. So the other piece, so you're gonna first be presented with a bid for, you know, we're going from Premier to Unified. This is your 100% increase. People are also overlooking, as they're accelerating, moving to the cloud, moving their operations, their technical operations to the cloud. There is a lack of understanding of what that's going to do year 2, 3, 4, 5 to your support dollars. So for every dollar that you are, you know, moving from on-prem to 365, it's going to approximate 10-12% additional expense within your support. And this is where kind of we're seeing some of the gotchas in year 2 or year 3. You know, there was, again, I just worked with a university that moved from, you know, Exchange on-prem to O365 E3 and saw almost a 700% increase in their costs on the back end of all the other stuff they were doing. So this is a big issue for your organizations. If it's not today, it's going to be in the near future. Almost everybody is using a significant amount of Microsoft software to run organizations. So it's an area that you do need to pay attention to as a group, if not you specifically. And it's also something, you know, in addition to the regular pressures that you always have, like I said, it's very acute in your area right now, in your sector right now. The pundits are talking more and more about looking at support as an option to go independent and look for alternatives. And the reason I bring this up is this has not been an option for Microsoft until very, very recently. So US Cloud is the #1 alternative in the marketplace where we replace unified support for Microsoft product. We have been solely focused on that for about 3 years. We have only seen other third parties actually trying to dial in and do this work in the last about year, maybe 14 months. So a lot of the folks in your organization, even though they might know and have read a lot about, you know, the idea of going to third-party support, independent support to save money, hasn't been an option for Microsoft, so it may not come up, which is why I'm talking to you guys today. If what we do see folks saying, okay, we straight up can't afford this, we're going to either bail on Unified and just stick with our included support that we get with licensing, or going with a traditional partner that they've got supporting them, a Microsoft partner that supports for other things. You know, we're seeing people end up, when they do have a major issue or a major outage, really left holding the bag. The support, the kind of free included support and Microsoft incidents that used to be viable are pretty much not viable anymore. People are waiting not hours, not days, sometimes weeks to hear back from Microsoft on issues, even a SEV big time outage that's business critical. You know, same thing when folks are looking to partners that do other things, that are specialists that help with projects or migrations, and do have some expertise, that are just not set up as a specialist would be to really take on the whole Microsoft stack and be able to support whatever issues come up. We get calls, you know, 2 or 3 times a month from people who are really, really stuck and can't get support from Microsoft and can't get support from their partners. I get a couple of calls a month from actually Microsoft, you know, kind of behind the scenes Microsoft account reps that are selling the software, not the support, begging for help, kind of, again, behind the curtain, because even they can't break through with Microsoft support and get like a hospital or school supported. I get at least 2 of those a month. Let me just, so I told them I was going to keep it pretty brief, because there's a little left of center for what I think you guys normally hear. But I did want to just point out that you do now have a third-party option. There are a couple new competitors in the marketplace. We've got a good guide around what that looks like if you're doing an RFP, et cetera, beyond just us. But what US Cloud has done, we were a Microsoft managed service partner for 20 years. In the last, in 2017, we got completely and totally focused on what we knew was coming around this shift from Premier to Unified Support. It's all we do. We typically save folks between 30 and 50%. Some, if you're bigger, sometimes more, but very rarely below that 30. We also have put a lot of emphasis on responsiveness and all domestic support. So we're working also on kind of quality and speed, particularly for medium and smaller size companies that are struggling with that so badly with Microsoft right now. And we actually back that up financially. So we have a 15-minute initial response time guarantee inside of that. All domestic US-based engineers, we do that for some of our big federal clients, so everyone gets the benefit of that, kind of increased service level and ease of communication. We have engineers all the way up to high-level, designated support engineers, if you know the language Microsoft uses. So the very highest level engineers on staff, 24/7, 365. We support internationally. We're in 21 countries now. We have somewhere in the neighborhood of 2.8 million end users that we're supporting, anywhere from Fortune 50s down to organizations that are mid to small size. So it's across the spectrum, and the big question is, if you're independent and I have a cloud service problem, I don't understand. Are you handling it? Is Microsoft handling it? So we do handle Microsoft escalations. It's a very important part of it, and it is kind of the piece that a lot of others struggle with, which is why you haven't seen as many people kind of wade into this complicated space. But right now, as of today, this is a snapshot of the last 6 months, of tickets that come in. And again, this is some very, very high-level sophisticated stuff from Fortune 100s who have very good internal engineers. We're able to close across the board 86% over the last 6 months. We do have a network of elite kind of specialists, Microsoft partner specialists, that we'll use for anything that's esoteric, because it's a pretty wide stack. But that's only about 5%, and we're averaging less than 10% has to actually go to Microsoft. And that includes, it's counterintuitive, but we're able to actually support and resolve about 70%, 68, 70% of cloud tickets from Microsoft, because you don't need to get into the tenant. It is a configuration issue or a patching issue, et cetera, or there's a workaround until until a more permanent solution could be had. So we're able to handle about 98% of on-prem problems and 70-ish% of cloud issues. And then, again, we do have a path to get to Microsoft when you need to, and sometimes you do need to pop the hood and get into the tenant, or there's a bug issue, et cetera. We escalate through the Premier for Partner agreements. That is the fastest category that Microsoft offers, even faster a lot of times than unified support. So it is an end-to-end. Yep.
Yeah, this is great stuff, but yep. I want to just be cognizant of our final Microsoft speaker. If you could finish up here.
I can. Last slide. So if you want to know any more about it at all, there's a lot of stuff that we've got at uscloud.com. We've got a savings calculator where you punch in some simple information, can give you by industry a rough estimate of what you might be able to save. Ebook, you can get a free copy of Gartner's market guide around independent support, and I will wrap it there.